Salut survivors! Welcome back to Solitude Class channel. I'm a big fan of the Civilization series and the 4X genre in general. I did several video guides about Civilization 6, but in this video I will highlight the main similarities and differences between Civ 6 and another great 4X game that I enjoy a lot, Old World. Old World is a brilliant, well-designed and addictive game. It is developed by Soren Johnson, lead designer of Civilization 4 among other things. This game is really underrated. Therefore, I decided to give you a short introduction to this game by showing you some really cool key mechanics this game has in comparison to Civilization 6. I will not go in very details as it would take far too long, but we'll go through some key features that you can expect. With no further ado, let's get started. By definition, Old World and Civ are 4X games. In both games, you build an empire, you have economical and technological advancements, military and non-military routes of victory. You have another similarity, which is that in both games you are fighting and you are expanding and fighting on an hexagonal map, and you have a high tactical value of units and classes and geography on where you are, whether you're on a hill, on the forest, crossing a river. All of these will have an impact for your battlefield command. In both games you have diplomacy, religion, trading. In both games you can play simultaneous multiplayer and more customization actually in the Old World compared to Civ 6. And in both games you need to take care of your people, manage your happiness, your discontent mechanisms, and so on and so forth. Now, what is more specific and what is really well done, in my opinion, in Old World? There are three key facts. One first fact is that in Old World, you are in charge of a dynasty. Meaning that at the beginning, you start to play one character, and eventually this character will die. Maybe you will just die of old age if you're lucky, or you can die on the battlefield, or you can die being poisoned by a spy from another player. And you will keep playing your dynasty. Generations after generations, you will play this dynasty. And between your different members of your dynasty, you can have good relationship and bad relationships. Similarly, inside your nation, you will have multiple families, and you will need to manage the relationship and the internal politics within your empire between your families. And every civilization has multiple families with multiple attributes, pros and cons, and so on and so forth. So you will play a role-play game where you will make decisions along the story of your dynasty. A little bit like in Rome, Total War for example, but in a different kind, with some flavor of events that will happen and challenges that will be thrown at you. In comparison to Civ 6, where you're a little bit like a god, you know everything that's happening, you can plan everything. Well, for a good part, you have a large impact on mathematics, and few things will actually come to disturb your plan to some extent. While here, in Old World, you will have more to balance things out and find a way to overcome these events of what will happen to you. Because you're gonna have a fantastic heir, but this heir will eventually become ascetic, will become spoiled, and everything will go bad. So as a result, you are role-playing a dynasty. You will have to overcome events, you will have internal politics, you will need to manage your family's opinions, and this is done in depth during the classical era. You will only play during the classical era period. Fact number 2. This is what we can call the management of orders. In this game, in comparison to Civ 6, the units' movement mechanisms will be similar, but at the same time very, very different. So same as in Civ 6, a unit can move every turn by default. As for example here, I have this conscript. So say for example, So say, for example, this constrict here, I'd like to move it, right? And you can see it will be able to move along a certain distance. You can use one order, two orders, or three orders to move, right? So let's say I'm going to move here, for example. I have utilized three orders, and I can take another unit and move again. So you can move all of your units every turn, provided that you have enough orders. So you have a whole game mechanic in order for you to generate orders. It can depend on your governors, depend on your economy, depend on your units, on your religion, and many parameters for you to manage orders. But what is very tricky is that if a unit has finished to use all of its movement capabilities, as you can see here, I cannot move anymore. What I can do is then use some trainings, another resource in the game, in order for me to do a force march. And then I can keep moving. I can move even further beyond my initial possible movements. What I can also do is buy orders. So you need, during a battle, during a war, I should better say, to manage your orders. Because everything you do will cost orders. As we can see here, all these workers building lumber mills, mines, roads, and buildings here, all of this costs orders. So when you reach a peak of the war, you need to stop your civilian units to utilize orders, or you need to manage how you distribute your orders. Do you use your orders with your civilian units? Do you use your orders on the east fighting against Babylonia? Or do you use your orders on the north front to prepare a war against Egypt or against barbarian incursions? You need to manage your orders in the game, and this is a very, very critical layer, which is really interesting to play. And then fact number 3 are the different type of resources. So for example, inside a city, you will have 3 types of resources. You will have the growth, you will have training, and you will have civics. So you produce 3 types of resources, of production resources in your city. The growth, the training, and the civics. With the growth, you will produce civilian units. With the training, you will produce military units. And with the civics, you'll be able to produce specialists as well as buildings and projects, if we can compare with the Civ 6, for example. So it means, in comparison to Civ 6, where you have only one single production resource in all of your cities, and say you are going to build a workshop inside an industrial zone, you will get a high production, and this high production will be used to build faster buildings, units, projects, you name it. In this game, in old world, you have these 3 different resources. So some cities will have a very good production of civics, some cities will have a very good production of trainings to produce an army, and some other cities will have a very good growth to produce your workers, your religious units, and so on and so forth. So this adds a very, very interesting layer to the game, that you have these 3 different types of resources. But it's not all, because in each city you will produce all of these resources, right? So the resources you will use inside a city, for example, here in Parsa, I'm having a festival. So I'm consuming the civics of Parsa this turn. It means the growth of Parsa will be utilized for the actual growth of the Parsa citizens. And the trainings of Parsa will then be going to my global empire resource stockpile. And this goes all over your empire. Meaning that, as I explained a little bit earlier to you, you can consider to utilize training resources in order to do force march with your units, to go beyond the normal movements allowed, or you can use these same trainings in order to purchase orders, once again, to go further into a war, as an example. This means that if in all of my cities I'm producing units, it will imply that in all of my cities I will be consuming the trainings generated by these cities. As a result, I will not collect any training for the empire, right? As you can see here, from a general stockpile, I get plenty from many different cities. So what I need to do when I reach a wartime, for example, and I want to utilize this stockpile here of training for military action, tactical utilization on the battlefield, then I need to stop in my cities to produce units and produce festivals, build buildings, civilian units, specialists, and the likes. And I just took the example of the training here. You can go and do the same with the civics, and so on and so forth. So the whole management of resources in old world is a totally different layer compared to Civilization 6. So as a result, you have these three main parameters. I'm not going to go in detail about the cities land expansion. As you can see here, you can have cities much bigger than in Civ 6. You're not limited to three tiles. You have slightly different mechanics in the science, but you still have a tech tree at the end of the day. It's still a 4X game. There are things you don't have in Old World. I should note them. I'm not going to go through all of them once again, but there are a few things that are really cool in Civ 6 that you do not have here, which is linked to the fact that in Old World, you only play in the ancient and classical eras. Therefore, you have no tourism, you have no spaceship, you don't have submarines, you don't have all of that, of course, because you are not crossing through the entire history. You also do not have Golden Ages, but to some extent, while I appreciated at first the whole Golden Ages mechanics in Civ 6, when here you're playing your game of Old World, you still end up in a Golden Age if you are managing well your resources, keeping your families happy, having a good growth in your cities. You will result in a Golden Age under your economical development. It will not be something triggered if you have reached or not the 81 era score points you need to reach, because maybe you will have only 80 era score points in Civ 6, and if you have only 80 and you're missing 1 era score point, well, you miss your Golden Age. Here, you don't have an era score points mechanics. You just reach your Golden Age your own way, but so you don't have the same as in Civ 6. Another thing you don't have, which I appreciate a lot in Civ 6, is the whole pollution, rise of seas later in the late game, which adds a very interesting layer of strategy in the game. We once again do not have that in Old World because we are playing in the ancient times. Now, Old World is really cool. I play it a lot solo in my old games. There are some games of the weeks. I play it also with friends, online, multiplayer, and I highly recommend to all the people who enjoy Civ 6 and who find interesting these concepts in Old World to really try it. You will have a lot of fun. There are regular updates, game additions, new events happening, and you will be able to have a lot of fun. Now, please let me know in the comments if you find this video useful. Let me know if you want to try Old World, and if you have any question about the game, I'll be very happy to help you. On that note, let's toast to the like and subscribe buttons. I appreciate very much the support. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next videos. Cheers!